next question, I'll start with Doug. Do you think the current covenant enforcement procedures are adequate and effective?
As I indicated earlier, I think that we need to continue to be consistent in how we enforce them. I mean, at the board level, we're always faced with people coming in and wanting to continue to have their favorite kind of a mailbox or something like that. And it does appear in some cases when the board is very strict in remaining absolutely connected to the way that the covenants is written, and I use mailbox simply as what might seem to be a petty component of covenants. But I am a strong believer in consistency in how we address those. So I believe we've turned the corner in doing a much better job of enforcement than we were previously. It is a constant battle to keep up with that, and we can't let down our guard.
Yeah, I would say it's adequate. My most recent covenant violation, and I've had a few, regarded house numbers not being on my house. They were down because my house was being painted. And during the week or so that the painters were there, it was noted that my house didn't have its numbers on it anymore, and once I nailed it back into place, all was good. I support covenants, and I recognize in a community like this, that's one of the things that makes it an attractive community. At the same time, though, we're also all individual homeowners and property owners, and I think the board needs to strive to keep that in mind and find the right balance between the shared benefit of covenants and our individual homeowner rights.
I would tend to agree with that as well. I think there's a few areas in the covenants that are probably somewhat more strict than they need to be. Mailboxes perhaps is one area. There's one type of mailbox you can have, and that's the only type of mailbox you can have, and I think maybe there's some room for latitude there. There are other areas in the covenants that conflict with other areas in the covenants, and we need to fix those. In general, I think the enforcement has been pretty good. Sometimes it's maybe a little overzealous, as Chris has pointed out, but that's probably better than the other way around. So I look forward to being able to try to clear up some of those areas of confusion. I will say that from perspective of sitting on the covenants committee, there is a perspective, or there was a perspective, that anybody that wanted a variation from the covenants could go to the board and get it. Luckily, that's changed over the past year or so. So I applaud the current board for fixing that problem. And I hope that we will continue to do that. We have covenants, everybody should stick with them. Maybe we need to give a little more latitude in certain areas, but we should stick with what we have.
I think they're adequate, but I think that a yearly or annual review should be built into the committee responsibilities. We did a major overhaul a couple years ago that I participated in as the board liaison to the Covenants Committee. We tried to make them more user-friendly in the format and layout, and then also went through to either add things that we thought were necessary, keeping up with the times, and thus eliminating some things that were irrelevant. And that's why I think it needs to be done on a yearly basis, because things change, things come into not necessarily fads or fashion, but especially the ones we've had recently, different style of fences. Some of the fence styles that are in there, I think maybe a lot of people might think are outdated, and we need to update them with the more modern versions of fence, as opposed to telling our homeowners that they're not allowed, or asking everybody to get a variance. Because once you start giving out variances, then you set a precedence, and I'd rather change the documents than give out variances, and thusly change the documents instead of having to deny people variances. I think that enforcement over the last couple of years, since Armstrong has come on, has greatly improved. When the former management company was here, it could take 2 years before something would come to a hearing, which frustrates the neighbors that are around them that are complying with the covenants and wondering why their neighbors aren't held up to the same standards. And then the people might be confused, thinking that, well, it hasn't gone forward, so maybe it's been dropped or I'm in compliance, and then they're hit with the second notice a couple months later. So I think consistency is important too. We need to make sure that we that we follow the procedure that's laid out in the documents. And I think the staff has been, but I also think there's a little bit of reasonableness that has to be applied. And I think homeowners don't realize that sometimes, and we try to communicate that with them, that when you get the letter, don't get hysterical, call and let's work it out, let's see what can be done, if anything. So I think that it's adequate, but it can always be improved.